But I want to begin with you, Lisa. The challenger in any race, in any endeavor of this type, the challenger needs to come forth with a thorough and a convincing argument as to why an incumbent should be turned out of office. And so this is your opportunity to explain to us why that's the case here.
Okay. How long do I have?
Well, I mean, we don't put a time limit on answers, but I mean, if I would answer it this way: if you can't make the case in about 2 minutes, then you probably can't make the case with voters either. So use that as a guideline.
So there's several reasons. The budget. The main thing that the opponent is going to say is that the millage rate has not been raised in 4 years. Taxes have been the lowest, and that's great, but unfortunately, that comes at a price. The city repairs, maintenance has been at a standstill. There's many things that need to be done that have not been done. So let's just leave that at that. There's nothing in the budget that's going to deal with the contractual increases for BSO and the other increases. They just passed another millage rate that is the same, but again, it's not going to build anything. So there's going to be no padding. They're no longer going to be able to use ARPA funds, past hurricane replacements, and CARES Act money to pad. So when you're going to be able to kick the can down the line only so long, and then everything is going to come to a halt. One of the biggest things is the opponent lives on the one street in the city that doesn't abide by the same rules as the rest of the district and 98% of the city. They're allowed to park their boats on the front lawn. They are allowed to have their airboats. They are allowed to have RVs all on the front lawn. Our residents cannot. They can have horses, cows. It's an agricultural. They can do whatever they want. They can have their bulk pickup. It was just voted on a week in advance, whereas the rest of the city has to have everything 24 hours beforehand, or there's a code violation. So how can you put yourself in the resident's shoes when you're not abiding by the same rules as your neighbors? There's one block in District 2 that does not abide by the same rules, and that's the block that the incumbent lives on. The rest
Tell us the name of that. Tell us the name of that street, please.
I'm not sure what the name of the street is. I can guide you to it. Okay.
All right. Well, let's do this. We'll certainly circle back, and you'll have many more opportunities to amplify on these. But let's hear Howard Meltzer's side of the story from what Lisa's just said. Go ahead, Howard.
I didn't realize that this interview was going to be, I thought this interview was going to be about Ms. Mallozzi talking about what she's going to do for the city, and me having an opportunity to talk about what I've done for the city, what I'm going to continue to do for the city. This is not what I expected, but I would expect the same opportunity to be able to talk about Ms. Mallozzi's track record as a 12-year sitting commissioner in Cooper City from 2006 till 2018. If that's a track you want to take, I'm all for it.
Yes, I mean,
in other words, I'd rather her tell the residents why they should vote for her, and I'll tell the residents why they should vote for me. I don't like, this is not the path that interviews usually take.
Okay, well, I respect your point of view.
Thank you.
I thought that asking a challenger to provide an explanation for why voters should make a change.
No, that's fine, but I'd like the same opportunity. I'd like the same opportunity because she does have a track record.
Right. Oh, by all means, absolutely. If at any time in this interview, Howard, you feel as though we're not being balanced in terms of apportioning time and opportunity to comment, please tell me. That's not our intent.
That's not where we're at right now. I just like to have the same opportunity that Ms. Mallozzi had.
Okay, well, you've got the floor right now.
Thank you very much. Ms. Mallozzi was a Cooper City commissioner from 2006 through 2018. During her time, she ended retirement benefits for all elected officials. They voted to end those benefits for every elected official after she retired. So in other words, Mayor Greg Ross is the first elected official not to receive retirement benefits for life. Ms. Mallozzi made sure she included herself in that. Let's see, there was a $12 million park that was built out on Flamingo Road. It was the single largest expenditure in Cooper City's history. Residents came out and they spoke at commission meetings. They wanted to have recreational areas for the residents to be able to come and be with their families and friends. They asked for a dog park, among other things. And she was part of the commission that didn't listen and chose to vote without putting it on a referendum, by the way, the single largest expenditure in Cooper City's history, to build this park out west. And basically what it is, it's not what a lot of the residents had expected. She was on the commission and voted to give a no bid extension to our waste management contract 4 years ago. Now that's probably the second largest contract we have in Cooper City besides Broward Sheriff's Office. And it was done, to me, it wasn't very transparent. They called the vote. There was, we had other vendors that wanted to bid on the contract. They were not allowed to at the time. Let's see what else. The millage from 2006 to 2018 in the city went up 49.5%. Since I was elected in 2018, it's gone down about 17%. And not only that, but we've also put money away into fund balance. We've put money aside specifically for hurricane relief and for future capital projects. Our residents, their property values have soared to all-time highs, and we've also added additional city services, many of them, and I can go down the list if you'd like.
Well, we'll have time for that. Let me ask you one follow-up question, if I can.
Certainly.
And that is, Ms. Mallozzi made a reference to the fact that because the millage hasn't gone up in the past 4 years, repairs are at a standstill.
May I tell you what we've done in Cooper City since then?
Sure.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Let's start with our infrastructure. We've spent $250,000 to repair drainage concerns at Bill Lipp's Park. It's one of our ball fields. We've secured over $4 million in funding from Broward County to rehab Sterling Road from Palm Avenue west of Flamingo Road. And that includes design work, drainage, and the actual repaving of Sterling Road, which hadn't been done in over 30 years, 12 of which Ms. Mallozzi was on the commission. I'm also a representative. I'm a director on the Broward Metropolitan Planning Organization, and we are in the process of submitting projects for C-SLIP funding. And most of those projects are going to be for traffic concerns. We're going to have, for traffic calming, because we're a small community. We don't have the interstates running through Cooper City like some of the other big cities do, but we do have a problem with traffic. So we're looking to get some money from the county for traffic calming, and it looks like it's going to happen. One of the things that we're close to getting the okay on is putting a roundabout on Hiatus Road between Sterling Road and Sheridan Street. We've had 217 accidents there in the last 5 years, and it's a nightmare out there. So we need traffic calming in the worst way. So I'm hopeful that's going to take care of that problem. We've also insourced our streets division. We were outsourcing it and contracting it out. And now we're going to have more control over tree trimming, asphalt repairs, and sidewalk repairs. We'll be able to do it in-house. And by the way, the reason why we have these problems is because years ago in Cooper City, on our public rights of way, they planted oak trees. Now, these oak trees are beautiful. They have great canopy, but they were planted in the wrong spots. They're planted on very narrow swales. And what's happening is they're tearing up the sidewalks and they're tearing up the roadways. Now, a few years ago, Ms. Mallozzi and the commission at the time, they created something called Reinvest in Cooper City. And what it did was it threw money into the budget to trim trees and fix sidewalks, etc. Well, I'm taking a broader view from 30,000 feet. The problem isn't the sidewalks and the streets. The problem is the trees. So what we're going to do is we've already had one workshop to speak about how we're going to endeavor this. And the hope is that we'll start with a voluntary program where residents will allow the city to remove some of these big trees on their swales, and it'll basically take care of the problem. We'll plant a nice, beautiful tree that's allowed by code, and we won't have to go and fix sidewalks and streets anymore. And it'll save us hundreds of thousands of dollars over the, per year over the next few years. To me, it's an investment.
Okay. Let's pause just there. I want to
absolutely.
I want to give Ms. Mallozzi a chance to.
I've got my hand up.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so the $4 million Sterling Road improvement, that's done because of a penny tax. the penny tax that was voted on by the Broward County residents, not done by allocations of funds. I know that because I was on the board and I was also on the executive board that involved and started all of that with the MPO. And I sat on that even when I was not elected. I was grandfathered in to sit on that and continue with that. So that money is nothing that was budgeted in Cooper City. That money is coming from the county, and all of the road projects is money that's coming from federal and county funds generated by the sales tax that was voted on by the Broward County residents. In reference to the trees that were planted 25, 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. They are beautiful. Some of them are a hazard, but I went with the Green Committee and started something called Right Tree, Right Place. And that was something we were working with the city arborist who has left and has not been replaced to ensure that the proper tree is planted with the proper roots that will not lift up sidewalks and lift up roads and cause this problem. In reference to infrastructure, well, that's great that you're investing this money, but nothing has been done.
That's your opinion.
It was a great play on words. Lisa. If you listen, it was a play it back. It was a great play on words that says, we're going to do this, but they haven't. And that's the issue. If you have a stroller, if you have a wheelchair, if you are someone that has a hard time walking, if you're riding a bicycle with your children, you will notice that the sidewalks are atrocious. The streets are riddled with holes, and the trees are overgrown beyond.
And I think it's lost on my opponent that we do fix sidewalks. We do fix the asphalt that the trees are digging up in the streets. We do come and we shave the root balls so they don't grow any further. But to me, and we're doing all that right now. It's all been budgeted for. You can look at our budget. You can look at our work records. But to me, that's not solving the problem. Solving the problem is removing the offending trees. And furthermore, what's happening is some of the trees were planted under Florida Power and Light lines, and FP&L comes in every month and they're trimming these trees, and they don't look like trees anymore because the trees are growing into the power line, so they're having to trim it into the shape of a letter Y. And what's the problem is those trees are they've been compromised. If we have a major storm, I'm afraid a lot of those trees are going down. But I will say one more thing. I've spoken with the city manager, asked him to call Florida Power and Light, and they are amenable to having a cost share project with us on removing those trees. Because let's face it, if those trees are gone, they don't have to come out and trim them every so often. So they're going to be helping us financially with removing those trees.
Okay, let me ask you both. I'll start with you, Howard Meltzer. When did Cooper City become a contract city with the Broward Sheriff's Office? 2004. Okay, so it would have predated both of your service in city government. Yeah. Was it the right thing to do, Mr. Meltzer?
I wasn't around in 2004 in Cooper City. I was living in Pembroke Pines, so I really wasn't intimately involved with the whole thing. I did hear that it was due to financial constraints. Pension costs were going up, etc. So like I said, I really can't comment on whether it was the right thing to do at the time.
Do you agree? And I'm characterizing what I recall reading and hearing about. I don't think I've spoken to him about it, but your mayor, Greg Ross, has on numerous occasions expressed concern with the nature of the relationship between the city and the current sheriff's office. I didn't know if you shared his concerns or not.
Well, I'd like to see more communication from our sheriff. It's been a little disappointing. We've reached out several times and we've gotten just very little response from the sheriff. But you have to talk to the mayor about his opinion on that.
Okay.
But my opponent has also voted and has asked for numerous workshops on going with Davie Fire to leave BSO, and also looking into leaving BSO for the police aspect of BSO as well.
Not true.
Just the mayor.
Not true.
True.
It's not true. We haven't had any workshops yet.
You've not had workshops, but you are on the record of saying it, and you're also on the record of critiquing them on a regular basis.
Lisa, that's your opinion. I've never critiqued them once.
If I can interject,
just have some facts before you speak.
Okay. I have a reason for saying this, and I'm saying this with a smile and with some levity in my voice. But this candidate interview is starting to resemble a Cooper City City Commission meeting. Mr. Meltzer, I watched in horror the July 25th commission meeting, and I'm not directing this at you personally by any means. On the contrary, but I watched Commissioner Ryan Schroeder deliver an unyielding tirade against your city manager, making a motion for his termination. All this hysterical stuff. I mean, is that the norm in Cooper City?
No, and that's not how I operate either. I mean, if you watch the meeting, you know I try to keep a good, cool demeanor. In fact, I believe it was me who asked to adjourn the meeting when things were getting out of control. But if you want to talk, would you like to talk about behavior on the dais?
I do. We'll get to that in a couple of minutes, or to that issue. But I want to ask Lisa Mallozzi the question, since it seems relevant. It could be relevant with the dynamics at City Hall. Lisa, do you think Joseph Napoli is doing a good job as city manager?
I think that Joseph Napoli is being micromanaged by the commission, and I don't believe that he is given the opportunity to do his job. When elected, I will give him a timeline to show me that he can do his job without the interference of the commission members.
Who's doing most of the micromanaging?
My opponent, the mayor, Commissioner Schroeder.
Howard, what's your response to that?
My response is when I was elected in 2018, there was no oversight of the city manager's office. There wasn't by the commission. There was no oversight of finances by the commission. We were left with quite a mess. I don't call it micromanaging. I call it oversight. And we've done a pretty good job. We've put a lot of good policies in place, financial policies, and we're back on solid financial footing. The city manager is doing a good job. He's running the city. I don't get involved with the operations of the city. I get involved with setting policy in the city.
Okay. Lisa, do you accept Howard Meltzer's assertion that, and I have not checked it, so here we go, that between 2006 and 2018, the millage rate went up almost 50%, Cooper City?
I don't believe it did. I don't believe it did go up that much. I know that I did vote to raise the millage rate when needed, but I don't have documentation in front of me, but I do not believe it went up 50%.
Okay, and because of your opening statements about the city repairs being at a standstill and so forth, are you on the record? Are you in favor of raising the millage rate now?
I don't believe it needs to be raised. I believe that there's several redundant positions that have been created that could be taken away to save several $100,000, and then that's would be a good start.
Give us some examples of redundant positions in city government.
Well, let's go with the easiest position. Let's go with the easiest position of the park ranger. It's $70,000. No need for it. Hasn't done much. We have other people in the park. Park ranger has no authority, cannot do anything. If there's a need for police, BSO needs to be called. So that person is, I want to say it's a $70,000 position. Is that going to solve the problem? Absolutely not. But that's one start. We also have, there's an assistant finance director. There's also assistant city manager. There is several other positions that are not necessarily, everything's going to add up. So again, start small. Take out the positions that were not needed in the past. It's a small city. Use that money to start with the repairs and then work from there.
I want to hear Howard Meltzer's version of this situation as well. Go ahead, Howard.
What was the question again?
Well, the question is, you're wasting money by hiring a $70,000 a year park ranger you don't need.
Look, we have 70 acres.
Hold on. You don't need an assistant finance director, and you don't need an assistant city manager, is what I just heard.
She's wrong. We have 70 acres of parks out there. We have 3 guys that are working out there that are making 10, 11 bucks an hour that don't have the capability nor the authority to do what the park ranger does. The park ranger oversees everything from making sure the bathrooms are stocked to making sure that we have, I'm not going to say civility, but make sure that things are under control at the parks. If BSO needs to be called in, they're called in. But it's something that needed to be done, and I don't believe we're paying him $70,000 a year.
Okay. Just to shift the dialogue just a little bit, I want to stay with you, Howard. Tell me what you want to accomplish, specifically what you'd like to accomplish in the next term that you haven't been able to accomplish yet.
Well, we've initiated a beautification initiative. If you saw in the questionnaire that I returned to you, we've got $700,000 in the annual budget, where we've actually voted to hire a consultant to come out, and we're going to develop a landscape theme, a common theme throughout the city. So it's not looking hodgepodge. We want something that's looking nice and structured, and then we're going to make sure it's going to be inventoried as well. We're going to know when we need to put new plantings in, how much money we're going to need annually to maintain what we have in the ground. And, it's going to be an ongoing process. This is forever as far as I'm concerned. And Cooper City is going to, it's going to look better than it has in a long time. We're going to start with the main thoroughfares, and we're going to start with the city-owned property. To that end, we've already had a campaign where we have required through code enforcement our commercial properties to comply with in many different ways, but to comply with their original use agreements that they signed when they built their properties. And we've had there were a lot of citations, but they've been terrific, and a lot of the problems have been fixed. It's been landscaping. It's been pressure cleaning on the sidewalks, repairs in the parking lots, drainage, lighting, etc. So that's one thing. I'm looking to make us a more beautiful Cooper City in the future. Something else that I want to do is you talk about infrastructure. We've got most of our roads are already paved and are in pretty good shape. We just had a road condition study that was done, and there are some roads that need to be addressed, and they are being addressed on an annual basis. But I believe if we can really address this tree issue, it's a very, very pervasive issue throughout our city. None of our HOAs are immune from it. None of our neighborhoods are immune from it. And if we can systematically eradicate these trees and put in some stuff that's beautiful and won't be as invasive, it'll save the city hundreds of thousands of dollars a year eventually moving forward. And I think it'll beautify the city.
Okay. I'm going to pause here just for a second and
Sure.
but open the floor to my colleague, Dan Sweeney. Dan.
Yeah. I believe both of you cited public safety in your questionnaires as one of the issues that you found most important. Well, Howard, you said public safety, and on the other hand, you said the contractual increase in police and fire of 5% a year equates to about $1 million a year that you're contractually obligated to increase in police and fire. How do you balance these regular increases in police and fire and also the necessity of ensuring public safety?
Well, it's tough. I mean, we spend over 70% of our general fund budget on public safety, and it's really the most important. We just endeavored our first ever strategic planning.
Sorry, Howard, did you say 70%?
70% of our general fund budget, probably 46% of our overall budget.
Okay.
But we just endeavored a strategic plan. City manager brought it to us, first time in the history of Cooper City. And the number one thing that residents want, they want a strong public safety. And to that end, the costs keep rising, but you can't put a price. You can't put a price on lives that are saved. We have to be as efficient as we can with help from our partners at the Broward Sheriff's Office. But as costs rise, we have to. The great thing about Cooper City is we're a small bedroom community with very little commercial development. The bad thing about Cooper City is we're a small bedroom community with very little commercial development, because what I'm saying is the tax onus falls on the residents. We get very little contribution from other sources. So we're trying to be as cognizant as we can when it comes to public safety cost, knowing that you can't put a price on somebody's life. and moving forward, that's, it's a challenge. It was a challenge for Ms. Mallozzi's commission. It's a challenge for our commission. It's going to be a challenge moving forward for everybody.
Lisa, you said that contractual increase, you said you need to stop looking at this as our problem and start looking at this with all of the county to find a solution.
Yes.
What is that solution? And how much of a problem is this regular increase?
Well, I mean, you have to think of it this way. Let's go back to not raising the millage and using one-time funds to balance the budget. When you continually do that and you have a 5% increase that amounts to approximately $1 million, that's going to go up every single year. And several, I want to say it was Commissioner Schroeder that added 2 or 3 positions at $150,000 a position, which also increased the budget. When all that happens, and again, $1 million. So when you have there's no cushion, you're going to have an issue. But because BSO represents the county as a whole, I believe that there are ways that you can potentially work similar to when they work with, you have task forces, you have drug task force, you have burglary task forces, you have things like that where officers from different police units and all over the county band together and they fight cohesively. So when they do things like that, you as Cooper City as its separate entity doesn't have to, if one of our banks were hit in a robbery, Cooper City doesn't have to work on its own to try and figure out what happened. There is, 20 officers that are working in a unit to try and figure that out. So when you look at things like that, if we do that and we potentially do that with more of BSO, where potentially, possibly dividing the cost of some of the upper positions, maybe some of those upper positions can be alleviated if we add some of the private police agencies into it, then we're spreading the cost out. That can work. Similar to right now, Broward County is looking at the collectively the garbage. They're looking at trying to lower the cost of the garbage with different different agreements and how they can do that. So similar to that. And there was a garbage agreement years ago where everybody had a stake in a processing plant. So something like that, where we all have a stake and where the entire county is sharing the cost, because right now you're sharing the cost of BSO, but yet Plantation has its own, Davie has its own, Pine has its own. So if you can take something that they're paying for and maybe some of the upper positions share that, but still, because Plantation's not going to give up theirs, Davie's not going to give up theirs, everybody wants their own. So, but if you can share some of that, that might bring the cost down for BSO, might also bring the cost down for the private municipalities. And then as a whole, everybody's getting a better service, more bang for their buck.
As part of your answer there, Lisa, can I just follow up on that real quick? You mentioned something about private policing. What is that? Are you saying
not private policing, but where some municipalities, the municipalities that don't have BSO.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you for clarifying.
Sorry.
All right. That's I think that's what was my main question.
May I say one thing about the cost?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, you're talking about sustainability moving forward. We're also trying to be more efficient throughout the city to offset some of these cost increases. For instance, our public works director just brought us an analysis where he wants to get rid of some of the contracts that we have with outside vendors and bring some services back in house. And over 5 years, he's projecting we're going to save $800,000, which is almost, it's $160,000 a year over 5 years. We also, in our utilities department, our director had the foresight and vision to in-house. There's a function where I guess when utility lines when holes have to be dug for swimming pools, et cetera, utility companies come out, or there's a company that comes out and marks all the utility lines so nothing gets hit. We're bringing that function back in-house. We're going to have to invest $20,000 in equipment. It's going to save us $50,000 a year from here until eternity. So we're looking for more efficiencies in Cooper City as well to offset some of these additional costs.
But yet staff has shrunk through 20% at least through resignations because of possibility.
We have the same exact staff that we had. We have 103 employees, which is, well, I believe is what we had 4 years ago. We might actually have more employees now because we have added a couple of positions. So that's not true.
Yeah, I'd like to know more about this alleged exodus of city employees. Lisa, you mentioned that. I heard Schroeder mention it at the commission meeting, but we don't have the details. What happened, Lisa? What happened in 2018? In 2018, you left the city commission. Were you not a candidate that year, or what happened?
I was turned out.
Oh, okay.
Term limits.
Do you support term limits in city government?
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
You've served on the city commission for 12 years, and now you're running to get your old seat back.
I'm running to get my old seat back because the things that have been happening, I'm not happy with. I'm not happy with ordinances that are changing to suit one purpose and then changing an ordinance back. Speed bumps that were not allowed and now we're allowed in one area because we changed an ordinance for one area and then an ordinance was changed back. Or a park being named for a person when that is still alive because that ordinance was changed and then immediately changed again once that park was named. Things like that. Things like sidewalks that are part of HOAs that have not, the HOAs that are out, that are the sidewalks that are outside of the HOAs that are part of common areas that normally they have not been responsible for, that now they're responsible for. So now that's increasing, putting a further cost on the residents in that HOA. And a lot of those HOAs pay the same amount of taxes as Cooper City residents, but don't get the same benefit because they're private streets. So they're already paying for their own streets and their own maintenance. I'm upset because they tried to get all of the residents of Cooper City to fix their own sidewalks, not just clean them, but repair them.
Not true.
And then when it came out and the residents of Cooper City said, you can't do this because you're looking at homeowners insurance that has already gone through the roof, would be beyond reasonably affordable if that happened. But it's things like that get put on an agenda because they're trying to sneak stuff on and then get put off if they get found out. It's things like that. So you're talking about things that you want to be transparent that are not. How about spending $70,000 to see if it's feasible to put in a civic center where there is a sports complex?
Okay.
And then that's denied, even though again it's on the record. It's so.
Let's get Howard's version of events.
What I would ask you to do is some fact finding of your own on some of the claims that my opponent is making, because she's not being accurate. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay.
Excuse me.
I think I asked Lisa a question that I didn't ask you, Howard, and it was an oversight on my part. But what is since you've got a council manager, a commission manager, form of government there, what is your level of overall satisfaction with Joseph Napoli, your city manager?
No, I think Mr. Napoli is doing a fine job. My evaluations of him speak for themselves. I mean, nobody is perfect, but he's done a good job managing our city, especially during 2 years of COVID. Very difficult time. He's brought some initiatives to the city, most specifically our strategic plan, which we've never had before. It's going to be our guiding document for the next 5 years. Financially, basically every aspect of the city is quantified in it. And I think he's doing a good job.
Howard, where would you put public safety, or more specifically, the fear of crime, like a burglary? How high does that rank on the list of concerns among your constituents?
It's fairly high up there.
And again, if, as you said at the outset, and you're not the only city to say this, if the level of communication with the Broward Sheriff's Office is not what it should be, then are Cooper City taxpayers getting, their money's worth through the contract you have with the sheriff's office?
Well, I think they are. And let me just tell you what we've done, to fortify our public safety. We've created, we've right now our District 28 office, our district on Sterling Road, under previous administrations, they had it closed at night for 8 or 10 hours. We've opened it. We've staffed it fully. Residents can call now. They can come to the district if they need help. So there's somebody there 24/7, 365. We're in the process of creating a real-time crime center in Cooper City, which is going to link commercial properties via camera, HOAs via camera, with the Broward Sheriff's Office. And to that end, we've also added a technology detective to work the crime center. We've added license plate readers throughout the city, which have proven to be very effective in catching the bad guys. We've taken a lot of steps. We have a terrific police captain, and he's very proactive, and he's very cognizant of the needs of Cooper City. And I think in partnership with him, we've been able to do some things to fortify our public safety.
I've heard good things about your captain there from some of the other candidates as well. I've got a question about Parks and Recreation, and I'll stick with you, Howard, just for a second.
Sure.
Cooper City's always had a reputation for being, a pro-family, pro-parks and recreation sort of place.
Yes.
Can kids, are the lights on at night at outdoor basketball courts? Can kids play basketball after dark in Cooper City? They
can play. There's courts on Sterling Road over by the Sue Ellen Fartelman Sports Complex. The lights, I believe, are open till 9:00 out there.
Okay, very good. Lisa, what do you have to say about the quality of Parks and Recreation offerings for the community?
The residential parks need an upgrade. If you have small children and you're using the residential parks, the neighborhood parks, a lot of the equipment needs to be upgraded. A lot of the several parks that are on a main thoroughfare do not have any fencing whatsoever. So if you have more than one child and you're watching one child, or you're distracted by one child and the other child runs the other way, there is a potential hazard right there. Some of the parks don't have canopies. And if you've ever, I don't know if you've personally gone down a slide in 95-degree temperature, but if you have, and there's no canopy, or if you've taken a child, you're going to hear them scream, because you can imagine how hot they get. And there's several that don't have any covering whatsoever. So that also needs to be done. One of the things that I wanted to see done was a subcommittee on the recreation board, and have some young moms on there that are using the parks, who's, small children with, from just learning to walk to, just starting middle school age children, and get them to go in the parks and say, okay, what needs to be done? Because when you're using that, my kids use the park, believe it or not, down the road from us, they love it. But when parks are designed for certain ages. If you look at the park equipment, you'll see a sign on it that says good for ages, 4 to 12 years old, or what have you. So if you get children that are that age and moms, and they're in there, they're using it. They're the ones that can tell you exactly what needs to be done, what's good and what's not. So that I think that's an aspect that's not really addressed and not really maintained in this area. And also, I think there needs to be more pavilions, because that's something that a lot of our residents are going out of the city and renting. And it's a big complaint. And it's something that we have enough space in our parks, or in some of our parks at least, that we could put in a pavilion, earn another form of income, have one pavilion pay for another pavilion, and another pavilion, provide a service.
If I may interject just for a second, I'm trying to absorb. You've got a lot of ideas and goals here, and common sense compels me to ask an obvious question. You've only been out of office 4 years, and you were in office for 12 years before
and
that.
The reason.
Wait a second. Didn't you have ample opportunity to build these things you're describing right now?
And you will, if you go back and you look, you will see that there is one pavilion that was built at Flamingo Road Park to increase that, but the city's not allowing that to be rented out. And the point of that was for it to be rented out to cause more revenue. So there's the pavilions at Flamingo Road. Did I lose you, Steve?
I'm here. I don't know what
Oh,
happened.
okay, sorry.
Yeah, I got a
There's
battery warning.
also a
Sorry.
pavilion at the Pool and Tennis Center. The Pool and Tennis Center has been under construction for I'm not sure how long. So no one wants to use that because when you're using the Pool and Tennis Center and the pavilion right there, you're not going to have little kids when there's a construction zone right there.
Okay.
So with those two were rented out on a regular basis, if they would provide revenue for more of those. The reason that there are any tarps on the parks that we already have was because I have children that were raised in this city. I raised my entire family here, and they did go down the slides, but those tarps or covering, whatever you want to call them, a lot of them have not been replaced, and the parks that didn't get them have not received them still. And if you go through, there was a rotation where the playground equipment every so many years was fixed. And I'm going to parks. I mean, again, I still go to parks with my kids, and the stuff is rotted. And I see the same stuff that has not been changed. And now you're looking at a potential hazard and a lawsuit to some children.
Okay.
As far as the fencing, I asked for a chain link fence on some parks because the slats, wood plank fence that went like this, the kids could crawl through, and the chain link fence was safer. I was voted against that because it was not, chain link was not as aesthetically pleasing.
Okay.
The only place that got that was the one next to City Hall.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm
You're
going to just I'm going to let Howard respond or just clarify or respond to anything you've just heard about Parks and Rec stuff.
Okay.
No, listen, Dan, Steve, we have a 5-year a capital improvement project program, and we do have playgrounds on that in the 5-year program. They're not rotted out. There are no hazards out there. I've been out with the city manager looking at the parks and looking at the playground equipment over the past couple of years. There's no hazards out there. Now there are areas that are going to need to be replaced, but we're budgeting money for those areas, and they are in the 5-year CIP plan. But I will tell you one area that was a hazard, and you can check this. This is a fact. When Flamingo West Park opened up in 2019, and that was built, Miss Mallozzi voted to build that park, and I guess okay everything that was done in the park. They have a pavilion with a playground underneath it for the children, and there are 2 gates, one on the north side, one on the south side of the playground. The gate on the south side opened up to the lake. It's a nature preserve with a big lake, and 30 feet from that gate was water. Now, any child could have gotten out of that gate and just walked over to the water. Ms. Mallozzi said, if you have multiple kids, you might be sitting out there paying attention to one kid, and another kid might be moseying out the gate. It was a death trap waiting to happen. And what I did was I made an immediate call to the city manager and told him to put a fence up. And they did it the next day, and thankfully so, because we could have had a disaster out there otherwise. But no, I don't believe that the playground equipment is in any disrepair. And like I said, we're cognizant of how important those areas are to the children. And if you look at our 5-year CIP plan, we have accommodation to do steady replacement as needed.
Okay. We've been at this for close to an hour, and we've covered a lot of ground. We haven't covered everything, but I hope and I trust that anyone who wants.
Can I ask one really quick?
Go ahead,
question?
Dan. Yep.
Take just a second to answer.
Yep.
Howard, in 2018, you ran for this seat. We kind of had like 2.5 opponents, right? You had
well, at one time I had 5
one person
opponents.
withdraw.
Right.
So did Lisa? Did you support any of his opponents or Howard in the 2018 election?
I did not support Howard because he's best friends with the mayor.
Okay,
or one of the mayor's closest friends.
Did you support somebody else to take your seat in that election, or just didn't endorse anyone?
I'm not going to lie. I don't recall. I don't I don't believe I did.
Okay. Just asking. That's all I got, Steve.
Okay. Interesting. Well, best of luck to both of you. We appreciate you showing up, doing the questionnaire, answering the questions. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it. And you guys have a great day.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank
Lisa.
you for your time. Happy day.
Right. Thank you.
Stay dry.
So long.